So this is our old pump building. The pump's no longer in use because we have a new water supply. And so today I'm going to try to move it, and I'm going to take on Michael's challenge. Michael's a friend of mine who actually suggested I move the rat shack, but instead we're going to move the pump building. And I'm going to move it up high enough that I can hopefully make a sort of plumbed outhouse so that when we tear down our cabin, we've got a place to use the facilities while we're doing the work. And then when we're done with it, we can remove it. It'll be kind of like you see at a job site, they have those trailers, which is kind of like the office and sort of place to spread out plans and stuff. So we'll have a little utility room, and it'll be lockable. It'll have a bathroom, and it will be up higher where it will fall to our septic field. So I'm gonna get started today trying to move it. And I'm gonna see if I can do that by myself using the tractor, pulleys, and a sort of a Rube Goldberg setup, and creep it up the hill to where I want to put it. So this sort of shows you why we named the channel Outbuilding. There's outbuildings all over here, most of which we're going to actually get rid of. So this is the rat shack. It's the one that Michael suggested we first move, and we actually thought about using it as sort of a little temporary cabin, which it would almost work, but it was really so bad from rats, and it really was, and there's a whole video on that, a couple videos actually. That's good dry storage. We'll keep that, and when we're done, we'll sort of salvage the materials and use that for form wood for some of the processes when we're building, and then get rid of it. The one on the right here, or the left rather, your right, is the pump house, and that's the one I'm going to try to lift up today and move up the hill. And then this box in the ground, I'll come over and show you, is kind of this junction where a whole bunch of different piping that is completely a mystery to us joins in. And so I'm going to try to sort out which one. I know there's a pressurized line from there to the cabin there, and I know power goes from there out to here because I found live hot wires that were chewed by rats in here when I started demolishing it. So I've terminated that in the past. I know the power goes to this point and it's off. So I'll get in this box and I'll show you what's in here. So it's pretty evident that over the years, a whole bunch of different people have been involved with this and done different things with it. By that, I mean this cabin. And this is just a mess. There's all kinds of stuff in here, and we don't really know where everything goes. We've sorted out a few of them, and the elk come and step in there, and they've broken a couple things, but I don't see any rodents right now, which is nice. I'll pull the camera up so you can see in here better. So I'm going to look for the pressure line coming through that's coming from the cabin there. I've got that pressurized by our new water system, and I can find it on this side, and then I'll splice into that for a way to temporarily provide pressure for the cabin, but that's going to be really short-lived. I just want to get everything disconnected from that building so I can lift it and move it. So I just came across a little nest of little baby voles or mice. I don't know if you can see one on there. Little guy there. They're pretty tiny. So I don't know if this is going to work, but here's a little salamander. I've got the power line here, a line that we sort of sourced the other day and kind of figured out, and then I think this is the pressurized line, and they both head off to the house. I cracked one of the spigots with a hose on it, and I'm going to see if I can try to listen down here and see if I can hear the water going through this pipe. I wish I had a stethoscope, which I don't, but that would make this easier. So listening didn't work, but I did find the salamander and get him out of there. So I decided to just use a little drill bit and drill a hole and see if I could find the pressure that way. So that was obviously the pressure line, so it was then a matter of just cutting a chunk out of the old pump building so that I had something to hook into, and then sort of circumventing the pump building entirely and gluing that back in down below so that I'd sort of spliced my way out of the pump building and therefore had removed one more connection before I could move the building. So the remaining thing to do is the power distribution to this, and it's coming to a sub panel from our main panel. I know where there's a buried box. I'm going to truncate the wires there. I've done that for the rat shack, which had live wiring in it when we first got here. This is actually in a little bit better shape, but I'm going to pull it all out. This is the conduit here. So with that pulled out and a couple other small details taken care of, the building will be free to move. I did one little last check with my circuit tester, and then I just started with the neutral wire and used that as my pilot and just pulled it out, see how it went, and then pulled the rest of the wires out. It went pretty easily, and thankfully the conduit was in good shape. There was no breaks in it or anything, so everything slipped out really well, and I may even be able to reuse some of that wire. All right, so I got the electrical pretty much cleared out, and I just left, so we're disconnected from the building. I just left the ground wire as a pull wire if we ever need to restore something there, and I can pull it out later. So now I've got this heat tape that's around the water distribution system, and then there's a valve down in here, and I'm gonna cut the plumbing out to the pump building from that valve over, and then I'll hook something up to that valve, and I think I can patch back through the old distribution line and give us a spigot down in the meadow down there. And so after checking out the neighbor for a little bit that stopped by, I am back, and I'm going to just disconnect the plumbing so I can yank all the plumbing equipment out of the shed and have this isolated. So the only thing connecting to the building now was the pipe from the tank to the building. And so I dug a hole, reached underneath there and cut it off, preserving as much of the pipe as I could. And that left me now with just a bunch of stuff to yard out, all the plumbing materials I could yard out of the shed because they weren't hooked up to anything anymore. And I just pulled them all out. Some of this I can sell, some of it I can reuse, some of it I can recycle, and some of it I'll throw it away. So this tank represents the last piece of the interior of the shed, other than this little sort of wooden stand that it was sitting on, which I'll use as an entryway in the future new improved shed, leaving just kind of moldy drywall and some metal underneath that was the old entryway that I pulled out so that I could get access to the trapezoid block on the corner and start lifting. All right, so I got a building now that's empty and disconnected. So now there's joists running this way in here, and then there's a double rim joist on this side, and this T111 the siding is overlapped by about 1 inch. So I think if I take a 2x4 and put it up underneath there, I'll pick up the main girder going across. There's only 4 posts on the corners, and so I'm gonna kind of put a little rail underneath there, and then I'm gonna dig down one of these posts and see. I think it's sitting on one of those little cushion blocks, those sort of trapezoidal cushion blocks. If it is, I may try to salvage and keep these little posts for the legs. If it's not, or if there's some other thing, if it's cast in or something, then I'll saw it off. So I'm gonna take a quick snack, and then I'll dig out one of those posts and see what I'm working with, and then I can decide how to move out forward from there. All right, so the first one's just a post, pressure treated, sitting on some sort of landscaping block down there. And I can measure it. Looks like it's 16 inches is my guess. Yeah, 16 and a half inches. This one is it's about 13, so it's different. This one is 7. and this one is 9. All right, I'm very obviously making this up as I go, but I think I'm hatching a plan. These are all different lengths, and this low side, this is the side that I want to have facing south, so I get better solar gain with the rooftop. And so these could be a little bit longer, but I think that's going to be kind of cumbersome to move it because I'll have to have it jacked up so high to clear those feet. So at very least, I'll cut them all down to match at 7 inches. But I think I'll just, to start with, I'm just going to jack the building up and kind of get it up in the air so that I can build a better structure underneath it to skid it on. And I can at least then more readily cut those, but also then sort of think it through as I do it. So I think next step is to try to just get it start to creep up in the air, and I can sort of block it up as I go, and then I can build an infrastructure underneath it to tow it on. All right, well, I got it up in the air, and these legs are kind of worthless. They're just barely held on, so I'm gonna just take them all off and they'll be out of the way. Now that I've got it up in the air a little bit, I might go up one more layer just to get it up a little bit higher, and then I'm gonna flip these 2x6s and build sort of a truss underneath there that's gonna hold it. So but I wanna give myself enough space, and I had to move this one way over because they put some sort of support brace underneath, probably to kind of support that pressure tank. And I'll get it up high enough that I can get in there and yard that out and then move this thing over. The screws holding these legs on, as well as the blocks to the legs, were old and rusty and crusty, and so I tried taking them out, got a couple out, and then used a crowbar to get the rest of them out, and was able to free up the legs and the blocks below. Then I tried putting some 2x4s on top of the long boards I had underneath to kind of build sort of a square cradle that would hold things and kind of keep everything in one piece as I tried to slide it. Next up, I tried to rig it up with some rope to see if I could pull it. All right, so here's my plan. I've got a pulley down here. I've got a yoke, and then that's pinned to both of the spreaders that are supporting the thing. So I'm hoping that those spreaders will slide a little bit on the rails that I've set up. And I'm just gonna pull it like a foot or so and just see how it behaves. I've got it anchored to a telephone pole over there and the tractor, and I'm kind of trying to shoot down the middle of the V, so it's gonna start twisting the shed ever so little. So I'm just gonna creep it a little bit if it works at all. See what it does. I haven't used the tractor to pull like this before, so we'll see what we get. or that was sort of unspectacular, but it did get it to move a little bit. And I'm gonna just now kind of reorganize the little track and kind of lay a little bit more track and then see if I can move it. Right now this side's sitting a little bit low, so I'll jack it up and kind of build out on the low side here. And my V is, it should, like I think it should pretty much go split the difference between the telephone pole and the tractor heading that direction. So it should turn just a little bit, and it turned a little bit to start with. We'll see how this goes. That was a little bit of movement. Good morning. This is what a shed moving hangover looks like. I was out last night until just about dark, and it's one of the longest days of the year, so it was a long day and just a lot of fiddly stuff. It was kind of hard to film because I was just trying to get it done, but I was able to kind of direct things with the tractor by pulling in the direction I wanted to go and sort of turn it, sort of slid it on up into here. This is some of the cribbing that I had stacked up to get it up and over the top of the hill. It's in a really good spot, and I've got this reference triangle that I did a different video for the cabin preparation that I'm using, and it's got a really good north-south line across the two of those reference points. So I got the shed is lined up pretty much with the roof south facing, and there's some trees around, so it's not perfect, but for the solar panels that we'll use in there for sort of temporary power, it should work just fine. So today I'm going to clean up the mess. I'm going to get this cribbed up, and I'm going to go a little high because I want to be able to get underneath there to do the plumbing and stuff, but I'll get it up sort of level-ish. I don't have a good level with me, but I'll get it up high enough that I can put down my corner blocks, get those all leveled and kind of placed out, and then set it down. And this is really just temporary, so I'm not going to do a lot of preparation. I'm just going to set it down on top of some pillow blocks. I'll probably pull the pillow blocks out of where they came from, or where the shed came from, and use those. And then I'll clean all this stuff up. I'm going to redo, we've got a bridge that I want to be able to get the tractor over, and the decking is falling through. The elk are kind of punching holes in it, and the decking is just rotted out. So I've got a lot of these fence posts. This isn't even all of them. I'll get those and use those to deck that fence out eventually, but I'll stack these out of the way for now. Got the water, we circumvented what was the plumbing building, or the pump building, and now I've got the plumbing going just to this mess here. And I can slowly start pulling those pieces out. I pulled the wiring out from the shed and everything else, and so I'll clean that up. Today I'm just going to get this cleaned up and get out of here for the day. It was kind of fun to move. I won't probably move a lot of buildings, and that worked well. I considered using rollers, like some pieces of PVC or something to kind of roll it on, but I didn't want it to get away from me because I'm alone up here working on this one. And so I just used the tractor to sort of skid it across, and it turns out it kind of dragged those cribbing pieces with it. So I just had to kind of do it incrementally. I probably moved it 2-3 feet at a time and then reset up and re-jacked it up. So jack it up, get it level, and get out of here.